Why are green card holders being detained at US airports? Imagine waiting in line at immigration, holding your permanent resident card in hand, expecting a simple welcome home, and instead hearing the words no one wants to hear. Please step aside for secondary inspection. It's a moment that turns routine travel into a nightmare. What you're about to hear might seem extreme, but it's shockingly common. People who have lived in the US for years, have stable jobs, pay taxes, and have built their lives here are being detained, and some even lose their green card because of mistakes easily avoided. Today, we're going to unpack the hidden reasons behind frequent detentions, explain why even short or seemingly harmless trips can put you at risk, and offer practical, proven strategies to keep your residency safe. First, let's start with the travel duration issue. Most people think you can stay abroad for 6 months without consequence. The official limit is indeed 180 days, which is 6 months. But don't celebrate yet. This isn't a hard line. If you stay 179 days, return for a day, and leave again, authorities can question your intent to maintain residency. U.S. Customs and Border Protection (CBP) officers have wide discretion. They can ask questions about your ties to the U.S. and determine whether they believe your trip was really temporary. The law presumes that any continuous absence of more than 6 months may represent abandonment. Go over 12 months and abandonment is assumed automatically. What's more, repeated trips just under the limit create a strong travel pattern that officials can interpret as suspicious. Consider this real scenario. A lawful permanent resident had lived in the US for 7 years, working steadily, paying taxes, raising a family. When a close relative became gravely ill, she traveled back home, planning a brief visit. 3 weeks stretched into nearly 5 months due to medical complications. Upon her return, she was taken aside, questioned, and detained for 4 hours. The mistake wasn't just staying too long. It was returning without proof the trip was temporary. She ended up with a court date, a legal notice, and a lot of stress. Sound familiar? It happens more often than you realize. Now, second, it's not only about the length of your stay. Your travel pattern matters just as much. Suppose you leave every 2 months for long weekend visits. Individually, each trip is within limits, but CBP officers are trained to look for patterns. If they notice you spend more time abroad than in the US, that can raise red flags. Add frequent back-to-back extended stays, and they'll likely question where your real residence is. Third, minor criminal offenses can have major consequences. A traffic stop, possession of a small amount of marijuana, a mistake in college years. None of these may result in removal by themselves, but any arrest or conviction after you've become a permanent resident gets recorded. Shoplifting, DUI, domestic violence, even minor charges can cast a shadow over your residency. When you return from travel, CBP can pull up your record and use it as evidence that you're not upholding the moral and legal standards expected of permanent residents. Fourth, ties to the US are key. Your green card means the US is your principal home, but you have to prove it. Officials look for proof of employment, a lease or property deed, tax records, bank accounts, utility bills, a driver's license, the presence of immediate family, all the threads that tie you to this country. Without those, your residency is at risk. Leaving just after getting married, or after opening a US bank account, asking for a driver's license, and the next week taking a long trip home, officials might see the US ties as weak. Fifth, ignoring tax obligations can destroy your case. Permanent residents are required to file US tax returns on worldwide income, even if you live abroad part of the year. Failing to do that is like signaling you're no longer part of the system. CBP officers have access to IRS data. Not filing can raise red flags during inspection. They consider tax compliance a core indicator of whether you still root your life in the US. Let's address common myths. Myth: I can always stay away up to 6 months. Reality: 6 months is when the presumptions begin. You still risk questioning, delays, denial of entry, or even removal proceedings. Myth: if I always come back every 5 months, I'm fine. No, repeated cycles under 6 months can seem like living abroad. Myth: green card holders don't have to file US taxes. False. You must report global income every year or risk losing residency and future citizenship eligibility. Myth: border crossings from Canada or Mexico count as US entries. False. Any exit and re-entry is recorded, regardless of the port. You are tracked everywhere. So what can you do? First, if you plan to stay longer than 6 months or might need to extend due to family emergencies, serious business, or medical reasons, Apply for a re-entry permit using Form I-1131. It costs around $660.00 and can take 3 to 6 months to process, but offers protection for up to 2 years. Don't wait until departure is imminent. Apply early. Always carry documentation. Begin with a recent letter from your employer confirming that you have a job and intend to return. Bring your last 3 pay stubs. Carry proof of residence, a lease, mortgage statement, or utility bill. Print recent bank statements showing US transactions. Have a copy of your latest tax return and W-2S or 199F. Bring proof of health insurance coverage in the US. If children study here, bring their school enrollments and attendance records. Have a paid return ticket. Be ready with evidence of US club membership, volunteer work, or active involvement in community life. These documents show your US life is ongoing and genuine. Maintain active ties even when abroad. Don't let your bank accounts go dormant. Keep your driver's license valid. Keep an active mailing address and, if possible, someone who can check and forward mail. File taxes yearly. Keep subscriptions to US services. If you own a car or business, maintain insurance, make payments, and keep records of operations. The more you can show you never truly disconnected, the stronger your case. Now, what if CBP detains you? First, stay calm and remember that being taken aside does not mean automatic deportation. Listening calmly and respectfully goes a long way. You have the right to remain silent, especially if the questions feel invasive or could lead to self-incrimination. You also have the right to speak with an attorney before answering detailed questions. It isn't mandatory to answer every question. Focus on answering briefly, truthfully, and only about your trip and return intent. Don't volunteer extra details. If you don't understand English well, ask for an interpreter. Explain your ties, employment, home, family, tax compliance. Short factual statements are best. If they ask you to sign Form I-417, that's a voluntary abandonment of your status. Don't sign without talking to a lawyer. If you hear terms like removal proceedings, ask immediately for legal representation. If you're held for more than a few hours, request counsel and help. The green card is not a guarantee. You earned it, but laws require you to maintain it actively. Failing to comply with rules by getting too many ties abroad, neglecting taxes, or losing documentation can cost you more than inconvenience. The stakes are high. You could lose your residency, be forced into court, and delay or cancel plans for citizenship. Remember, prevention is always cheaper and less stressful than fixing it later. The cost of a re-entry permit or lawyer advice is small compared to the consequences of removal proceedings. Think of it like insurance. Better to pay for coverage and travel with peace of mind than risk it all. By understanding these 5 hidden traps, lengthy stays, travel patterns, criminal history, weak US ties, and tax compliance, you can make informed decisions. If you face a family emergency, business delay, or sudden illness abroad, don't just assume your green card is fine. Plan ahead, carry proof, and be ready. A few documents can protect years of your hard work. When your flight lands, inspectors should say, "Welcome home." If questions arise, your preparedness, I-131 permit, employment letter, tax forms, tickets, insurance, school, property or rental proof, bank statements all tell a story. This is your home. They can't argue with that. This message isn't to scare you, it's to empower you. Knowledge is your defense. The path to citizenship is within reach, but you have to travel smart. Protect your status, just as you protect your future. Have you or someone you know had a detention experience? Share it in comments. Your story could help others. If this video brought clarity, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and let me know what immigration topics you'd like next. Be safe, travel well, and see you in the next video.